How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at Lovesickness from the Junji Ito Story Collection. This is another great volume, as always. If you guys know the Junji Ito Story Collection, basically it's these big, thick Junji Ito books that are around 400 pages and collect a lot of his really cool short stories. And this volume is a little bit different. It's a lot like the other volume, Frankenstein, where a large chunk of this short story collection is actually a longer story, apparently not long enough to fill up its own individual book, so pair it in here with some really cool short stories, and we get kind of a short-long blend. I guess you could use this if you weren't sure if you wanted to jump into Junji Ito's long-form work or not. Try it halfway, I guess. The main one, Lovesickness, is a really fun story. A small town by the ocean, surrounded in fog, and people have this special ritual, a crossroads fortune. Basically, you stop by a crossroads, preferably covering your eyes, and the first person to walk by, you ask them a question, typically about relationship advice in the future, and whatever answer they give you, that's your crossroads fortune. However, you get this guy, a very tall guy, pale skin, a long sleeve black shirt, and he's going to be giving you bad fortunes. Will I find love? No, you never will. And either through the fortune or some vague, mysterious power, the bad fortunes will drive people insane and lead to some pretty devastating results. But who is this guy? Woman, find him incredibly beautiful. He's known as the beautiful boy at the crossroads, and he's become an enigma of the town. You also get your main character, who used to live at the town back in the day, and he's come back now. He meets up with his old childhood crush, but he can never be with her because of a dark secret. And of course, like a lot of, like say Uzumaki, this is kind of a blended episodic and whole story deal. You'll get a lot of these stories where something unique happens within that chapter, and you still have the overall plot frame. And also, much like Uzumaki, things get wild and crazy much more than you'd expect from the story. By the end of it, things are going absolutely nuts. And I do want to say, some pretty downright creepy ghosts in here. When people die, that's not it for them in the comic. Their ghost will haunt the fog as well, and they start to look pretty nasty. Gotta love that. So, creepy ghost in the fog, an interesting, mysterious Junji Ito character. Yeah, I really did like it. Now, that being said, I'm not super a big fan of relationship drama stories and the whole plot between, you know, I love this girl, but my dark secret. It did drag on a little bit too long in some regards, but still overall, especially giving this another flip through, you know, I looked back right before I did this review to jog my memory and make sure I remember the whole book, because, you know, it's 400 pages. And when I was looking back through Lovesickness, seeing that mysterious fog, seeing all those ghosts, I was like, oh man, that's, you know, just lots of really cool Junji Ito artwork. Definitely did enjoy it. Now, the rest of the book, you actually get a duo of stories, the strange Hikizuri siblings, which are more comedic. Some siblings, 6 of them actually, left alone after their parents died, and they're all dysfunctional and selfish and supernatural. For the most part, you're gonna get these characters backstabbing and betraying each other. The little boy is the only one that seems to be innocent, but it's more on Junji Ito's comedic side, and we get 2 stories with the same characters to, you know, flesh them out a little bit. It kind of reminded me of Junji Ito's other work, The Dissolving Classroom, sort of unchecked evil children there. So if you like that, you'll probably like these. The last three, there's only three that aren't in any sort of a series as far as I know. Mansion of the Phantom Pain, really cool classic story about feeling pain outside of your body. The Rib Woman, a very, very creepy Junji Ito story. Let's just say one of his most classic reveals. And then the last one is a very, very short, I think it's only like 5 pages, a very short story about what I believe to probably be Junji Ito himself, remembering finding fake poop as a prank at a local little store setup, but it's so realistic and he can't help but think about it. A fun little nostalgic piece that gets strangely sentimental. So overall, Lovesickness, a good story with some good imagery. Yeah, some of the dating stuff drug on a little bit longer, and it's not my favorite volume. But that being said, Rib Woman is an absolute classic, and Lovesickness definitely deserves to be read. So I'd still definitely recommend it. If you guys are 100% new to Junji Ito, I would say the classic advice of going with Shiver or Fragments of Horror. But this is still pretty fun. Anyway, if you guys want to see this in a little bit more detail, I'm going to go over the physical release. I'm going to then do mini reviews of each of the stories, show you guys some of the stories, show you guys some of the art. I won't be doing any major spoilers, but every now and then I will slow down for analysis. So if you guys want to see more, without further ado, let's switch to the close-up camera. Alright, here we are inside the castle, taking a closer look at Junji Ito's Lovesickness. Let's go ahead and bring it closer to the camera and take a look at the physical release. In particular, this really nice cover. This is from the Lovesickness story. We get the beautiful boy at the crossroads and a girl being lost in the fog. I really do like Junji Ito's colors. Like we say, Junji Ito primarily works in black and white, just the nature of the medium. But we do get to see some color images as like covers and promotional material, and we get to see they kind of give him a pale blue skin when they put him in color, just you know, contrast and stuff. You know, yeah, I think it's pretty cool. If you want to see more of Junji Ito's color work, there is an art book which features a lot of it, which we don't get to see all the time, called Junji Ito's Twisted Visions. I have that. I flipped through it. It's pretty good. But yeah, so there's this. There's the Junji Ito Story Collection badge, and we see it again on the spine, and we get Lovesickness written sideways, and the ink drips downward. Pretty cool. There's the side, and we of course get him getting lost in the fog on the side there, above the Viz logo. I really do love the consistent spine work on these collections. Badge, the title, picture from the comic, and Viz. They look really nice together. Flip it to the back, and the back is a closer-up version of the front, but toned down, so it's more in the background, and we get the tagline, "An intoxicating beauty turns a small town into a bloody hell." And then we get sort of a pitch for Lovesickness, and then it says we have Lovesickness, but we also have other stories, and it talks about the Hizuraki siblings and Rib Woman. Rib Woman is one of Junji Ito's really famous stories. It is a really good story in here. $22.99 US, which I think is a super fair price for a book that is like over 400 pages long. That's really cool, and in hardcover too. Rated T+, Viz Signature, Viz Media. Now if we crack it open, we get to see that this book has these nice green end papers with a little marbling effect that matches the color on the spine. I think they all have similar end papers. Title page with the boy from one of the comic panels. And if we flip it to the other side, we get a table of contents. I should have mentioned this earlier, but Lovesickness actually does have a ton of adaptations, and The Beautiful Boy at the Crossroads, the first chapter, was adapted into Junji Ito Collection. The story overall, I believe, is also the basis for the live-action movie Love Ghost, which I really want to track down. I'd be curious what it looks like. But also, the Strange Hizuraki Siblings, The Seance, was adapted into the very first episode of Junji Ito Maniac. So, a lot of adaptations here. But anyway, a closer look at the contents. We see Lovesickness has 5 chapters. Beautiful Boy at the Crossroads, A Woman in Distress, Shadow, Screams in the Night, and The Boy in White. And the Hizuraki siblings start at page 245, so we get to see that this whole first segment is a little less than 250 pages. But the Strange Hizuraki siblings have 2 stories, Narumi's Boyfriend and The Seance, and then these 3 are unrelated to the previous series. The Mansion of the Phantom Pain, and The Rib Woman, and then we have this last one, Memories of Real Poop, which is a very short story. I think it's only around 5 or so pages long. But yeah, these 2 are both very good standalone stories, so even though there's only 3 stories that are completely standalone, these 2 are pretty good. Anyway, on the back we do get another Junji Ito about the author segment, but the page that they use as the background art is kind of a spoiler, so I won't show it. But I do also want to show the credit, Lovesickness Junji Ito Story Collection, and I always find this part interesting. Junji Ito Kesaraku, which I think translates to something like Masterworks, number 4. So if you guys are wanting to keep them in the original Japanese order for this collection, this is number 4, and the English releases are jumping all over the place in different orders, but I do like to know their original number. But another thing that's really fascinating is right here it says, copyright 2011, original in Japanese 2011, and then we go to down here, first printing April 2021. So it took from 2011 to 2021 to come to the States. So 10 years to get this book over here. Man, that's crazy. But, you know, like I said, Junji Ito has quite a bit of a backlog for us in America. You know, he's made a ton of short stories, and for the longest time we had some of them, but not too terribly much. But in these past few years, Viz is doing their job of making it right and bringing his stories over in official English translations. So I am really glad of that. But man, just to look and see, wow, it took us 10 years. That's crazy. But anyway, after this, I'm going to be taking a little bit of a look at the stories and the art. I won't be doing any major spoilers. So sadly, a lot of those crazy Junji Ito images, I won't be able to show you because they're technically a spoiler for the story. But that being said, know that there is some intense art in here. I just can't show you all of it. But I'm going to be taking a look at the stories, a little bit of a look at the art, taking a bit of a moment to analyze, and doing some mini reviews for each part of this. So anyway, without further ado, let's talk a little bit about the stories. Alright, starting out with Lovesickness. Like I said, this is a little bit episodic anthology, a little bit one overall story, a really successful blend, and we have the 5 chapters. But we get the first cover here being a black and white version of the front cover, and if we flip it over, I do also like this is essentially a blank page, but they took this artwork from up here and put it over here so it's not literally blank. But yeah, when you have a book, a comic book, you have to pay attention and make sure the pages are not just in the right order, but in the right left-right side of the book, because if it's wrong, then the page turn effect won't work. If you can, you know, if you're supposed to turn a page, but it's over here and we can already see what's there, that messes everything up. And also if there's any double page splashes, you have to make sure it's right. So props to keeping the page turns right. Anyway, we get a girl, and in this opening scene, she's watching someone coming through the foggy night. I really do like this whole town is all foggy and creepy. Pretty cool. But they introduce us right away to the Crossroads fortune. She's going to ask this man, which will later turn out to be the main character's father, relationship advice, and she's going to be covering her head and not seeing who's giving the advice. And yeah, this is the Crossroads fortune ritual, and it's the first thing we're introduced to in this book. But we see the kid coming to his new home on the train. The idea is that he used to live in this town when he was a lot younger. He moved away, but now his family is returning to their old home. And he meets a girl that he used to know way back in his past, and now the two are going to reconnect. And overall, everything as of now is going pretty good, but it turns out there's a dark secret that's going to come up in their relationship. It turns out when he was younger, back when he lived in the town the first time, he met a woman who wanted a Crossroads fortune. And it turns out that she asked our main character there, she's pregnant with someone's baby, and that person is married. What should he do? And rather than offering good advice because he's some young kid, he says that she'll never find love, and he just runs off. And the woman, hearing that she'll never find love, decides to commit suicide. And now he inadvertently, he starts to blame himself for this, but he finds out the girl that he likes, that's actually her aunt. So they can never really be together because of this secret. And yeah, it's going to weigh on him. And then we get, in the present, this other girl doing the Crossroads fortune, and the mysterious, beautiful boy at the crossroads is going to show up, and we get all these shots of this mysterious figure wandering through the fog, and a lot of the times when we see him, he's lost in the fog, and we get this really fun big splash reveal panel for him. Look how tall he is and kind of out of it, staring off into space. But she asks, will I find love? And he says, you will never find love, and walks away all coldly, which is going to lead, just like in the past, to a suicide. So a lot of this is about legend and rumor. It's about, did you hear about this guy? He's so beautiful, and his beauty becomes a thing of legend, and girls will start to wonder about him, but he's also evil. And what part does, he have, does he have a power over someone when you ask a Crossroads fortune of him? Can he manipulate you? And we get a bunch of other, like I said, stories in this universe. The main girl's best friend falls in love with the main guy, and she will try to do a Crossroads fortune to ask about that. And of course, you know who she's going to run into, and this is going to lead to a dangerous obsession when he says, don't worry about it. Trust your heart and pursue him relentlessly. So that's going to be one of the stories there, which, boy, it goes farther than you think. But then you get other creepy stories and other things. For example, they try to track him down. You get, the Woman in Distress chapter, where a woman with similar problems, where she's also pregnant by someone else, is going to ask our main character for a Crossroads fortune, and she's going to be obsessed, as horrible as her life gets, with repeatedly asking our main two characters, what do you think I should do? And it's really putting these high school students in a bad spot, because, hey, look, you've really ruined your life, and it's not my job to get you out of it. And she goes down horrible predicaments. You get another chapter where, his best friend from the last town he used to live in shows up, and he hears about the mystery, and he starts to suspect, hey, maybe you're actually doing it. And there's this whole subplot where people can't help but draw comparisons between the two of them, and he inadvertently becomes a suspect and starts getting all this attention that he doesn't necessarily want. And he's like, it's for real, it's not me, but people will start to suspect him, and he, you know, gets further incentivized to try to solve the mystery. There's the panel I was looking at. He's getting all this unwanted attention from girls. Meanwhile, the one girl he likes, he can never tell. So that's pretty interesting. But of course, the people that do die in the comic, it's not over for them instantly, because there are a ton of ghosts in this comic of the people that die in various ways, and the ghosts start to get pretty nasty looking over time, and there starts to get more of them. So I really do like this foggy atmosphere, creepy ghost story, mysterious figure, you don't know who he is or what he's after, starting to manipulate these people, and it does build to like the end of Uzumaki, where everything just starts to go absolutely insane by the end of it. But that being said, yeah, I am not the biggest into relationship drama stories, and the whole thing with him and his best friend and that secret, it does get drawn out a little too long. So yeah, it's not my favorite Junji Ito story, but man, now especially looking back at it, it really does have a lot working for it, so definitely can recommend that part. But anyway, moving on. After that, we have the two stories with the strange Hikizuri siblings, and the first one is Narumi's boyfriend, and we get to see the boyfriend character and her, and then we get a splash of the other 5 siblings, all these wacky and crazy characters. But we flip it open, and we get our sort of outsider character, because, you know, the main character doesn't know about the siblings. He's a young boy living on his own, and he gets this distressing phone call from this girl that he used to know in school, and he winds up saving her from committing suicide on a local bridge. And having nowhere to go, she decides to stay with him. However, she is going to not do anything and mooch off of all of his money and stuff, and whenever he says you should get a job or you should move out, she will threaten suicide again. So she's being very, very emotionally manipulative. But we, of course, get her family. Where did she escape from? We see this old, creepy, haunted house with the cemetery, and we get to meet all of her other siblings. There's six total siblings, so 5 other than her. And we get the eldest son there, who's the head of the household, and we get like the 2 wacky kids, the one over the top little girl and the little quiet boy, and they'll fight and they'll talk about Narumi being gone and how do we get her back, and how much they hate the boyfriend character for stealing her away, despite the fact that he didn't really want to. And they'll, of course, talk with her and plot and plan their revenge against this boyfriend. So, sort of an unhinged family coming after you for someone you don't necessarily want to have around anyway. But an interesting set of characters and an interesting story to see them first appear in. But after that, we get the strange Hizuraki siblings, the Seance, and we get this fun, smoky cover with one of the siblings vomiting out some ectoplasm there. But basically, the main brother leaves for work, the oldest sibling, and it turns out he doesn't actually work, because the family has a fortune, and he's just pretending to go to work to set an example for his siblings. Yeah, not necessarily the best idea there. But he meets a girl doing spirit photography by the lake that he really likes, and decides to talk to her and say, hey, you're into spirit photography, I live in a haunted house, come over. So she comes over, and of course we get this bit where the second oldest brother is going to try to steal her away, and you also see the grave of their parents. Now, seeing as how he hadn't had time to fully make a move on her, and also the youngest sister is getting really upset, and they find out it's because they're talking about their deceased parents, he decides to sort of kill two birds with one stone. I'll get the girl back, and I'll get to, you know, help my younger sister if we throw a seance. And before they invite her over, she's actually developing the photos, and it looks like every single photo has some strange supernatural phenomenon in it. So even though they don't know it, yeah, the house is really haunted. And we're gonna jump into a seance scene where we'll also get, you know, the little girl having antics, wanting her parents to come back, and a bunch of backstabbing and betrayal between the characters, as well as spooky events. I do want to say the strange Hizuraki siblings are more Junji Ito doing humor, and there's some cool visuals, and especially the first one with Narumi's boyfriend has a pretty messed up thing that the characters do at the ending, where you're like, oh, that is that is disturbing. So yeah, there is some horror, but it's not as straight up horror as the other Junji Ito stories. But I do want to say, it is fun, it's an interesting little series, and it did remind me of the Dissolving Classroom series, these unchecked kids, but it is different enough, and you do get like a whole ton more characters there. It's an interesting little series, but it only made it to 2, or at least that's the only 2 that are connected in here. I would be curious what more stories with these characters would be like, but they're still not my favorite thing ever, but a fun little interesting change of pace. After that, we have the 3 remaining stories. Alright, so after that, we have the story The Mansion of the Phantom Pain, or just Phantom Pain, I don't know why I keep saying the, but we get this cool image of him floating in the air in the hallway of this creepy mansion with, I guess that's pain lightning bolts shooting towards him from all around. Cool, creepy cover, gotta love cool Junji Ito covers. But we get this guy, he goes to this mansion with bricked up windows and a thick iron door, and he says, I need work, and I heard about this live-in working position, and he's glad to have a job, you know? But when he finds out what the job is, it's very, very strange. The guy's son is under this blanket, and he's having people rub various parts of the room. You see, they say that the condition he has is kind of like phantom pain. And with phantom pain, it's a real-world phenomenon where if you are to lose a limb, sometimes you feel pain where that limb is, but it's not connected to your body. So you're feeling pain in a part of yourself that's not there anymore. You're feeling pain outside of your body. And what happens with him is he has some strange condition, and the father will admit it may be entirely psychological, where he feels pain in the area around him. He's not literally missing any limbs, but he'll say, oh, in this part of the room, and he sends the mom to go massage the air in the part of the room. It's a crazy concept, but also really messed up if you think about it, you know? I mean, we have other senses like sight and smell, which will, you know, affect, like, you know, the area around our body is how we feel and perceive that. So the idea is if there was just ambient pain in the atmosphere and you could feel it the same way you feel like an ambient smell, it's a crazy concept. But if you take into account like what that would be like if it were real, it's pretty messed up. But the guy is super rich, so he's having people, he's paying the main character and all these other guys to go around his big haunted mansion, and they'll be on these radios talking to the son and trying to find the pain in the mansion. That's why everything's all bricked up and the door's big and lead. And we see the sequence where they're on a ladder and it falls over and they hurt themselves. Everybody, you know, it's a story about pain, and somehow they keep running into all these accidents and getting hurt, and the main character is feeling pain more and more than he used to. But yeah, I do love it's almost like Ghostbusters, where they're all in their uniforms and they're running around, but instead of hunting ghosts, they're looking for ambient pain. And I do want to say this one does go pretty far. It is one of those big, over-the-top, crazy moments at the end. For example, everyone gets hurt so much and all their wounds are looking really bad, and it's creating this ambient stench of their rotting limbs. And like towards the end of the story, the haunted mansion starts to look even more haunted, dark, and grimy. But yeah, it's such a creative Junji Ito idea. The idea that the enemy can be pain itself, and feeling pain that's not attached to you. Again, this is going to be one concept that maybe some people just can't get on board with, going, oh man, no, that's just ridiculous. But at the same time, if you accept it and think about how messed up that could be, man, that's messed up. But anyway, I said messed up, and now we're jumping into the Rib Woman, which is even more messed up. There's your fun Junji Ito cover with the skeleton behind our main characters there. And we open up with a day at the beach, and they pulled this drawing, I think, from up here. But we get to see our main character is in the shade, not wanting to swim with her brother and her brother's girlfriend. And the brother will quite bluntly say, oh, is it because you don't want to be seen in a swimsuit? Who cares what your body looks like? And, you know, it's one of those cases of, you're on the right track, but you didn't say it right. Yeah, you know, you shouldn't worry too much what other people think, but of course, if you phrase it like that, you're just gonna get shut up, leave me alone. But anyway, she looks at herself in the mirror, and she thinks it's the shape of her ribs, and she'll be talking to one of her classmates who mentions cosmetic surgery to have her ribs removed. Not all of them, but the bottom few. Oh, that is... I was actually, as I was reading this book, I was sitting in a weird way, and I started to ache a little bit on my ribs, and I'm like, oh, too relatable to this story. But man, some cosmetic surgery can be really weird and creepy, and you know, she's talking with the doctor, and the doctor says, I have to do a psychological exam as well, because, you know, for some patients, it's more psychological than physical, and whatever I do, it's never going to be enough. Boy, yeah, there's a lot to unpack in here, but she'll eventually run into her brother's girlfriend, and she's in distress because she keeps hearing this sound, and the more she points it out, the more the main girl can hear it, this palung palung, you know, sort of filling the air, some sort of stringed instrument. The brother's a musician, so they ask him, and next time they hear it, they decide to try to track whoever it is down to this park. It's this mysterious woman, and I do love this 3-panel turn here, and she left this strange instrument behind. Now, they examine the instrument, and it turns out it's made from a rib bone. Ah, gee, this story. But he also says this wouldn't be doing it. It needs a box of some kind in order for the sound to resonate. So if there's no box, what caused the sound? You know, like a guitar needs the box behind it. So it's setting up the mystery there. But, of course, the girlfriend's going to get mad and break it, and then she's going to go missing. So where did she go? Who is the mysterious woman? And we're talking so much about ribs, I kind of am anxious to see how they're connected. But this one has a really famous reveal shot, a famous Junji Ito picture, and just such a messed up, crazy idea behind it. And I do also want to say, talking about a sound that gets stuck in your head, and then talking about body image issues, There's a couple stories in Smashed that kind of remind me of that as well. There's a body image issue in Smashed, a story with all these crazy bats. It's the very first one. And then there's also one about a song that gets stuck in your head in Smashed as well. Definitely would recommend you read the Smashed collection. But anyway, the last one we have here is called Memories of Real Poop, and this deals with a shop selling fake poop. Now, I don't know if YouTube will get mad at me for showing that or not, so I'll limit how much of this story you see. But basically, this young kid is telling this story, and I think it probably is a real story from Junji Ito's life, although he doesn't name himself. And he sees poop at this shop. It's a fake poop, and he's just awed at how realistic it is, and he's taken aback by it, and he wants to buy some, but he's too embarrassed to buy some, and it's about him getting up the nerve to finally go and do it. And we do get to see the characters in the story are kind of blacked out, so we don't really get to see who they are, and he's talking to his mom. I really wanted that poop. Well, you should have bought it. Kind of straightforward there, Mom. But yeah, so it's an interesting, and when it gets to the end and talking about, you know, his perception of what it was like to try to go up there and buy it, and then having it as he's growing up, it's sort of oddly heartwarming despite being a story literally about poop. But yeah, that's a quick, I think it's only 5 or so pages, maybe a little more or less, but a odd little heartwarming poop story right there at the end there. So overall, the Junji Ito collection, Lovesickness, I thought was pretty cool. The main story, a good Junji Ito character with a ton of atmosphere and creepy moments, and it does get really big towards the end. So overall, I really did like that one. Hizuraki siblings are a little more humor and not as many crazy Junji Ito moments, although there is a very scary scene with a futon, I'll just say that. And then out of the other two, Phantom Pain and Rib Woman were classic, creepy Junji Ito horror stories, and I mean, if nothing else, you have to read Rib Woman. That's a classic grade A Junji Ito story. And then, hey, fake poop's fun, right? But anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my Junji Ito playlist, where you can see my reviews for several other Junji Ito books: Shiver, Smashed, Uzumaki, the new one, Black Paradox, and a few others, Pocket Curse unboxings, and reviews of the new Junji Ito Maniac series. So there is quite a lot down there. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.